Good afternoon. Welcome to the Pasquale Project. I am your host, Zeb Pasquale. Exploring the importance and nature of physical vitality and longevity, entrepreneurship and economic freedom, influence, command and leadership, and all the shenanigans in between, the Pasquale Project represents equal parts acknowledgement of and campaign towards the unprecedented opportunity we currently have to share our message and passions with the world via the internets, of which my podcast and YouTube channel are only components, along with my Instagram and Facebook profiles. I have been blessed with an amazing and striving life, packed to the brim with extraordinarily intelligent, courageous, and successful people, with whom I have had the honor to experience on a virtually daily basis loud victories, crippling defeats, thrilling adventures, pioneering travels, and quiet moments of introspection, discussion, and learning. Many of these times belong to us forever in our memories, but sometimes they scream to be shared. This is one of those times. It is my honor to present episode 2 with Mr. Gerard J. Besina. Say hi, Jay.
Thanks for having me, Zeb.
Yeah, man. This is pretty awesome. This is Jay's first podcast ever, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really pumped about it.
Quite an honor to be here with you, Zeb.
Oh, dude, it's likewise, man. Likewise. I'm going to go into it a lot. This is my second episode too. I don't know if you listened to my first one, but if you listen to the first one, Dr. Steve Sudell is so awesome, and it meant a lot to me because him and Lindsay's wedding was my first officiating job, so I wanted him to be my first guest.
Yeah.
But when I listened to it, he was so soft-spoken and gentle and nice the way he is, right? And when you listen to me, you could tell I was edgy and excited. It sounded like I had just snorted like 3 lines of coke, you know what I mean? That's how I sounded. So I'm trying to slow my roll down a little bit. But I want to introduce Jay in the sense that I'm an only child. I not once wondered what it would be like to have siblings, but a lot of my friends have siblings, and I know that's a common thing. But I always saw Jay as the older brother that I never had. And what I mean by that is that I tend to run around as an only child. I'm used to doing what I want. I'm used to I'm used to being in charge, and I'm used to owning all the choices that I make, and the consequences of those choices are all mine. And so what I saw in Jay was, I always saw the role of an older brother as a moral lighthouse, and every time we hang out, I could just sense a Hufflepuff-like kindness in him. And
I'm actually House Slytherin.
Are you really?
According to the sorting hat. So.
Are you really?
Yeah.
We got to take that test right now, like at least some point, because I wrote this one thing a while ago when we were working out, and I was like, if you ever wondered what it would be like to have a nicer, kinder, smarter, more intelligent, more compassionate, more morally grounded older brother, that's what Jay Besina feels like to me. Next to him, I feel like a rabid dog. And the reason why is because so much of my personal pursuits and interests revolve around going out in the world and, you know, essentially doing what I want. That sounds kind of bad, but like I'm a CrossFit trainer, and I love it, right? But in large part, I do it because I love it. But Jay is a high school teacher at a high school that is groundbreaking. There's no other way to put it. I'm going to talk about that in a second too. He gives his heart and soul to these kids that I've come to know, and they're all awesome. So I want to talk about that a little bit, because the theme of this podcast that I want to kind of focus on more so is education and the role education plays in society in general, the direction that education is going, because the world is changing very fast. Even in the few years that I've been associated with DVS, it stands for DaVinci Science. Even in the few years I've been associated with DVS, the education has changed, the internet has changed things, and DVS itself has changed. So I want to explore that a little bit. Also, Jay is married to this awesome woman named Risa, and I feel like their marriage is the envy of other marriages, just because it feels like I'm watching a cartoon whenever I'm with them.
She's a badass.
She is a badass. So the way we met, the way I remember, there was a paddleboarding event at the gym that I came from.
Oh man, yeah,
remember that?
yeah.
And so
surprised you remember that. I definitely remember it.
Yeah, I don't. The thing is, you had to remind me that that's how we met because I was late and I was stressed out, and everyone had gone through the lesson, and so I just kind of ran into it, and it was you and a student, I think, Augie.
No. It was Rachel brought me.
Okay. So, but I didn't see you until years later when my former partners brought me onto campus.
Yes.
And then that's when it was. And then we just hit it off literally immediately. We spent untold hours together. And it was natural for me to get to know the environment, both physical environment and personnel. So I ingratiated myself with the principal and with the staff and with the students. And what I learned immediately was that this place was a place unlike any other place, unlike any other high school. It was like it reminded me of some fairy tale idyllic land where you can actually raise children and not have to worry about outside hostile forces. And that's before then I had never worked with I had not worked with teenagers in a coaching capacity in decades. After I graduated high school, I helped as a swim coach and as a wrestling coach, but not since then, right? And so, you go out into the world and you get beat up and you come back. So what I was expecting was literally things you see on. I was expecting like hostile, territorial gang. I don't know what I was expecting, but I didn't get it. Yeah, I didn't get it at all from DBS.
Dangerous Minds.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was expecting, and it turns out that this school, DaVinci Science, and I later learned DaVinci Science was part of a larger conglomeration of other schools like it. It's extremely forward thinking. It's extremely self-critical, and it adapts extremely fast to changing times. I cannot say the same thing about other schools, and I think in that way it changed my mind as far as A, being willing to work with teenagers, and B, my own limiting beliefs on what it would be like to even work with kids in general.
Yeah. And
so my first impression was like their willingness to impart education in an extremely different way, like once I explain it as an outsider, because I think it's important for people to know you guys are in this world all the time. So I know it's very hard to look objectively at your own world. I want to give you that, and then so there was that, and then two was your own willingness to change your own rules on the fly, because it's not like, oh, we're going to finish out the semester like this because we have a few months left. It's like, no, we're going to implement this change now. And that's so impressive, and it's so important. That's something that I feel like personally I should learn as well. So there's one example is that their educational model is based on something called project-based learning.
Yeah. And
so project-based learning, here's an example. History class. I came up in public school. I forgot if you came up in public school. It would be, I had the good luck to have two excellent history teachers, but it was still textbooks, written tests, and then once in a while reports. So you had to be nerd level plus to just appreciate it, But here history is here's how I learned that they teach history. It's like, Jay, just for an example, Jay, you are Frederick II, King of Prussia, and I will be Charlemagne, King of the Franks. And in 3 weeks or 4 weeks, you're going to stand up in front of the class and present as Frederick, King of Prussia, and I will present as Charlemagne. So you're going to come up into the class and be like, "Hi, I am Frederick of Prussia, and here's what I've done. Here's what I'm going to do." And so basically, multiple things are happening at once. You have to research the character. You have to research the historical figure. You have to be good at public speaking, and you have to know your stuff, in the moment. And you have to know yourself to the extent that it is you can field questions and take criticisms on your character on the fly. That's how I understood that, right? And so that's just history class. Yeah. And it's like, oh, you want to take physics? Yeah, that's fine. And physics is, yes, there's math, and yes, there's abstract thinking. But the way you're actually going to learn physics is at DVS is you have 3 weeks to build a rocket, or you have 6 weeks to build an electric guitar out of a 3D printer. That's what I saw, and all the teachers, it's extreme. That's what I meant in that it's extremely hands-on. DaVinci Science is the science arm I think, of the DaVinci schools.
Focuses on like engineering. So
Okay.
engineering kind of push.
Yes, that makes sense. And it's not all engineering. So for example, you got a guy named Jaron, right, who taught sign language.
Yeah.
And I walked in on one of their, not walked in, I attended one of their finals, and everyone had to present in sign language, which makes sense, you know. So the actual daily routine life in this school is already superior to college level stuff, unless colleges have changed their game a lot as well. I'm sure they have.
Dude.
No,
I don't think
and so that's just the regular. That's just like run of the mill assignments. And so I think twice a year they would have this thing called exhibition. And the way I described it to Jay in the beginning, my experience with exhibition is if you took a science fair, a rave, and a museum and mix them all together in one crazy night, that's what exhibition is. Here's what it is. You come onto campus, it's nighttime. The place the place is decorated to the nines. Like every classroom has banners and strobe lights, and they've created mazes made out of blankets and stuff inside the classrooms, the way 5-year-olds make forts out of blankets and tables. And then you come in, and then the students walk you through. Oh, so here's like a regular. If someone has a heart attack and presents to the ER, here's what happens. Boom, 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 boom. And so you go through all these little things, and every class has something different. And I was just blown away. I was upset at every exhibition because there wasn't enough time in the exhibition to go through each thing, you know?
Yeah, and the most impressive part I think about that is that the students design it. You know, they come up with like how they want to present the information that they've mastered. And so it kind of really does showcase their creativity and their mastery. And they're proud. I mean, I don't know if anyone of these students are going to hear this, but I don't know if they realize, but there is no accountability for this. Okay. Like, it does not apply to their grade, in other words. So if they don't do this, it has no bearing on their grade. However, we still get 100% participation. All the kids are there.
Yeah.
It's been a 12-hour day. They're there till 8 p.m. and they love it. I mean, it's like one of the highlights for them for sure.
That's the thing, because I can't even. The fact that they are willingly doing it and they're into it. You know, it's a school full of just alpha nerd plus
who
kids.
CrossFit.
Yeah, who CrossFit. And so I think that was our role as well, because I want to explore that idea a lot. But exhibition was just one of those things, and you heard it from the horse's mouth. Exhibition does not count towards their grades, and the amount of energy and time it takes to put into it, I can't imagine. And so I asked them how what their finals look like. And their finals are actually not finals. There's these things called POLs, presentations of learning. Yeah. Get this, you alone have to stand in front of your classroom, and you're facing a panel of anywhere, I think, from 4 to 6 of your teachers. Mm-hmm. They're looking at you, and they've got their laptops scrutinizing you and judging you, and behind them are all your peers, also with their laptops or whatever they've got. And you have 15 minutes to present on what you've learned for, I think 5 minutes each on each subject. So let's say you've got your physics teacher, your anatomy teacher, and your economics teacher. I don't know if you teach economics, but let's say those are the teachers in the class, and you have 5 minutes. Physics, here's what I learned in physics, or here's a section of what I learned in physics. Here's what I learned in anatomy phys. Here's what I learned in econ. And then after that, the teachers grill you. So like, look, in your physics presentation, you said this. Can you defend that? And either you can or you can't, and you have to do it. You have to do it publicly, like in front of everybody.
Yeah.
And instead of A's to F's, it's actually 4 to 1.
Yeah.
So 4 meaning you're a badass, and then 1 means you just suck. And so
I wouldn't use those terms, but
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I've sat in on 4 pluses, and I've sat in on 1s, and more to the point, and what I admired even more is that after the one guy finished, I started clapping. I was like, okay, good, good job, good effort. And then one of the teachers looked at me and was just like, no, bro, like this, we don't try to reward bad behavior here. And I was like, oh crap, they are just merciless here, man. It's just
you got
ruthless.
the stink eye for clapping.
I did, dude. I'm just like, dang, I can't even give the guy like a good job, and I like that,
Yeah.
And with so much, and afterwards they kept him up there, and they didn't grill him in the sense of you did. The words were, you had time to prepare. You had time to this. We gave you this. So those were the words were very diplomatic, very fair, but the tone of voice was, what in the fuck?
Murderous.
Exactly. How dare you waste our precious 15 minutes with this bullshit empty presentation? Stop breathing the air that we breathe. Get the fuck off of our floor. Study your ass and come back next time. Next, yeah. But then equally important was if you got a 4+, and they would always give like a debriefing afterwards. And the idea was, like, the tone of voice was, you are the king stud of Los Angeles. You deserve to be the pharaoh of Egypt. Like, it was just very high praises, and equal so with the 2.5s and 3s. So what I saw was multiple things as well. Not only do you have to know your subject, it's almost impossible to cheat, and you develop public speaking skills and communication skills as well. Yeah. And so how awesome is that? It was I've been to several high schools and seen several modes of learning. This was completely different for me. I was completely mind blown. To this day, I'm mind blown. I was having a conversation with other teacher friends of mine, and we were talking about how to prevent regular kids from cheating on a math test. And then I think it was calculus. Oh no, I went on a hike with my buddy and his nephew was talking about how to prevent kids from cheating on a math test. And in my head, I'm like, easy. Put them up in front of the class. Give them a word problem and make him solve it in front of everybody and have him explain it as he saw me. It was like so easy. You know what I mean? So easy to me. But then when I said that, the look on his face was just pure horror. Like, how dare you? Not how dare you, but why am I gonna? This is a math class. Like, why am I gonna do public speaking as well?
Yeah, yeah.
And so that shows me how how advanced DVS is and how groundbreaking it is. And I've had the honor to chaperone some of their grad nights. I've had the honor to chaperone some of their proms. And I remember once we were walking into the old campus, because I'm in the new campus now. It is beautiful. I feel like I'm in Coruscant on Star Wars Episode 1. But I feel like at the old campus, it was so much of it was outdoors, and let's be honest, it was rough, right?
Yeah.
It was like
it was an old campus that was way beyond its lifetime.
Yes, some kid had left their backpack or something, some extremely valuable,
probably a laptop.
Yeah, some personal effect that was extremely valuable out in the open on one of the tables, and I'm like, bro, shouldn't we like put that up? Shouldn't we bring that somewhere? And Jay's like, no, someone's gonna claim it, or someone's gonna bring it in at some point. And the innocence of that and the immediacy of which he replied to that, my heart was so warmed, but also I got even more scared for them, because I'm like, we can't make them think that this is the way the real world is.
Yeah, no, I mean, we have that same concern. We know that, all right, because I teach seniors, so I know what they're going to experience very soon is going to be very different from here, right?
Yeah.
And we're concerned that they have idealized the world by living here, but no, this is only a few hours of the day. They know what the rest of the world is like, so so they know that they can't leave their laptop, in the middle of a college campus and hope that they can come back and get to it. So,
okay, good.
Yeah, but I do like the fact that we can have that here.
I agree.
The kids. I mean, I'm still stunned. Like, we'll have students. We'll get an email from the office saying, "Oh, someone turned in a $20 bill that they found."
Yes.
Like in the hallway.
Yes. That is insane.
If anyone comes to you looking for a $20 bill,
yes,
we have it at the front office, and
that's insane.
That's what happens here. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But I do love our strong culture for sure.
It's good. I think it's important to, because in high school and when I was in nursing school, I was exposed to, clinics where psychologically, physically abused children would go. Mm-hmm. And there was actually nothing wrong with the kids, but when they start telling their stories, you're like, man, this is just messed up,
mm-hmm.
And it sucks because they had nowhere else to go. And, the clinic can only help them go back to normal. And then what? They're discharged back to their abusive environment. And then you just see them back in a few weeks. So it's cool that you have a safe, very emotionally secure place here.
Yeah.
And so, but that, it means a lot to me to have Jay as a guest, because we're good friends. We come from very different worlds, but we connect very strongly on multiple subjects. He's done nothing but be gracious and help me with my pursuits, and I've done my best to try to contribute as much as I can to, his cause and the school's cause, but I want to give you the floor right now and kind of guide it with, give people a background on where you're from, how did you come to become a teacher, and then kind of segue that into how you found DBS. So I'll lead it off, like, you born and raised in Oxnard?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So Oxnard is, if you're not familiar, it's in Ventura County. It's kind of wedged between Camarillo and Ventura. Mm-hmm. Grew up there, lived there until college, went to UCLA. Come from a Filipino household, so I, along with probably many Filipinos, can attest to the fact that parents really do value like the medical professions. My parents wanted me to be a doctor, so as soon as I can answer the question, as soon as I was old enough to answer the question, like, what do you want to be when you grow up, I knew the answer, doctor. Right? Mm-hmm. I had no idea what it meant to be a doctor, to be honest, and I never really thought about what it meant to be a doctor until college. So that was my automatic response to the question, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Doctor. And everyone just thought it was super adorable that this toddler wanted to be a doctor. I liked science a lot. I loved science growing up, so it felt right. Like, whoa, okay, so I actually do like science, and being a doctor fits that. Went to UCLA for and I majored in pre-med essentially, and that also felt right. But it wasn't until I got I was like, I don't know, a talk somewhere, and I was listening to grad students, or maybe perhaps it was like doctors, like new doctors, that were talking about, really ask yourself why you want to be a doctor, because if you don't have a really good clear answer, then you may be going the wrong direction. And that was pretty eye-opening for me. Yeah. So I thought about it, and I was like, well, I don't know why I want to be a doctor. Right. It sounded cool, and I don't know much about the profession. I never really even did much research into looking into it, but I did know I like science. Mm-hmm. Coincidentally, at the same time, I was getting involved in a lot of student retention groups, which are at UCLA groups that were designed to keep students of color, primarily those that come from historically underrepresented backgrounds, so Black, Brown, Southeast Asian, Native American students.
What was this group again?
It was a big office under which there were several subgroups, but the office was called the SRC, the Student Retention Center.
And that's where you were from?
That's where I worked.
Oh, okay,
yeah, that's where I worked. And so there was actually a Filipino club that was underneath this umbrella, and its purpose was to keep students, Filipino students primarily, from dropping out, because students of color traditionally have been known to get into college but not be truly college ready, and so they might be college. They might get into college, but they don't stay in college. They end up dropping out at really high numbers.
That is interesting to me. Okay.
Yeah. So I got really interested in like serving communities and communities of color, and so when I really started to think about my passion, that's where I kind of felt the pull. And so I was like, all right, I love science, and I want to serve communities. What can I do with this? And it dawned on me that maybe I can be an educator. Awesome. Fast forward a few years, I attended grad school for education at UCLA, and my first kind of assignment was to find a school that fit me. Okay. And so I looked around LA because I wanted to serve that community. I know public schools were really under-resourced, and I was looking at Crenshaw High School. I was really attracted to what the students were doing there. At the time, I'm not sure if they still have this, but they had a program called Food from the Hood, where the students would grow veggies and herbs and stuff, and they would basically turn that into and bottle it into like salad dressings and stuff. Wow. And there was like this like agricultural component, and then also this business component that students were basically running, which was so impressive to me. And then I visited a school called Locke High School in South LA, and I walked into one of the classes. I was honestly just wandering the hallways, kind of dipping into classes and seeing like what I can see and learn from what I can learn. And I went to a classroom and I looked around and I saw what looked like a security guard sitting at a desk reading a newspaper, and a classroom full of students at desks, either listening to music, sleeping, or like reading a newspaper as well. There were no cell phones back then.
Right.
This was probably around 2000, 2001.
Okay.
And kids kind of looked up and was like, "Are you the sub?" And I was like, "No, I'm not a sub, and I don't even know what class this is." And they're like, "This is chemistry." They asked me, can I teach chemistry?
Wow.
And I said, I'm sorry, I'm not very strong at chemistry. Where's your teacher? Is what I asked them, and they said, well, our initial teacher quit. Then they had a series of subs who have subsequently quit.
My God.
And they stopped sending subs here, so we have no teacher. We have a security guard. And so I was having this really honest, heartbreaking discussion with just regular kids who were looking for a teacher, and their concern was, our transcript will say we took chemistry, we're not learning chemistry. How will this affect our future? And I was like, honestly, I don't know.
I am horrified.
Yeah.
Where was this?
Locke High School in South LA.
Wow.
Watts. And in my quest to find a needy school, this is the school that I grew attached to. So I applied to Locke High School, and I actually ended up working with a mentor of mine who also went through UCLA teacher education program, the grad school, and she remains a really good friend. But our experiences there have been definitely like formative for my education, my pedagogy, how I feel about education and its role.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I realized that even in these really, really rough areas, they're just kids who are trying to do the best with what they have.
Yes.
Like anywhere, right? So yeah, definitely horrified by the conditions, and even as I think back at it, like they were definitely I don't know, criminal.
Yes.
Like kids. I mean, some days just the kids weren't ready to learn, so I would stop everything and just say, "All right, so talk to me. What's going on? Like, what's on your mind? You guys are really off topic or off task today. You guys seem distracted." And me opening up that door for them to vent was necessary, but also really hard for me to hear. But it was their reality.
Of course. So
I was hearing like horror stories about security guards who would sexually harass them, offer them drugs, teachers who never taught, and that was apparent to me too. Like I would have a class at the end of the day, like a period 6, let's say, and I would say, "All right, guys, get out your pens, get out your paper, like let's get going with the warm up." And they're like, "I don't have a pen." I'm like, "How did you lose your pen between last period and this period?" And they're like, "Mr. B, you were the first teacher today to ask me to write anything."
Wow.
And this is the end of the 8-hour school day. And so that type of thing happens,
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean those were my formative years in education.
How long? So obviously you took the job. Obviously you took the job in Locke.
Yes.
So I'm just, I love this story. This is something I've never learned before. Like I don't remember this story at all. Did you end up staying that day to even give them some rudimentary chemistry lessons, or you're just like, look, I'm going to be back and I'm going to help you guys out? Was that kind of the feeling you had?
Yeah. Okay. I didn't, I mean, I hadn't even learned how to teach yet. It was me like finding a school to do my initial observations of teachers. Wow. So it was just basically finding a good fit. So find a school that you want to do some observations at. And that's where I encountered this school where I was like, all right, this is where I'm going to teach. When I finally have everything settled down with my credential, I'm going to come here. And I did. I taught there for several years. Mm-hmm. To be honest, I felt myself burning out after year 4 or 5.
I can't imagine.
And I just felt like maybe I'm not built for this. I ended up moving to a school closer to home. That's when, after a year or 2 at a school closer to where I lived, I got a call from my mentor, mm-hmm. who was Vanessa Morris at mm-hmm. the time. She's now Vanessa O'Hearn. Mm-hmm. But she had become a principal at this school. So Locke High School had been broken up into several small schools to become like smaller, which I'm a big fan of, smaller learning communities, smaller schools, under a charter management organization called Green Dot. So Green Dot took over Locke High School and broke it up into, I believe, 7 small schools. My mentor at Locke was now the principal at one of these schools, and she was calling upon me to be the science teacher at the school, and I accepted the job and continued to teach there for another 4 or 5 years.
When you were at Locke, were you commuting from Oxnard to Locke?
Oh no, I was in LA.
Okay.
Yeah. Good. That's a good question. No. I was living in LA already.
So the burnout was pure emotional, psychological.
Yeah, it really was. It was tough. I mean, a lot of things. It was feeling like, man, we're working against a system that's just too massive.
Yes.
Year after year, you pour all of yourself and a good portion of your paycheck into, because I teach and taught back then science, and we had very little equipment, so we would be, but we had to teach science, so we would go out and buy stuff wherever we could find it. I was at Smart and Final buying, things that I could use for glassware. We were out buying like squid to dissect. We were like buying these things to create a memorable lab experience.
That is amazing.
For students, and I it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, but it was also really challenging, to say the least. But I look back on those days and I really loved them, and I still kind of communicate with some of those students.
Good. That was my next question.
Yeah.
Okay, so from Locke, you went where?
To Paramount High School, which is in Paramount, borders Long Beach, Bellflower, Compton. I was there for, I believe, 2 years. I get the call that Locke has been transformed into a charter school, or many charter schools. I hop back to the old community and in South Central and continue teaching there for another few years. That was an interesting experience because we were now a group of like-minded teachers who were kind of governing and governing ourselves. So we had a principal who I believed in. We had assistant principals who I believed in, and teachers who were also like-minded. And that was also very tough, So, and that was a tough pill to swallow because in the past we would be able to, at Old Locke, we'll call that Old Locke, we would be able to blame these challenges on principals who didn't work.
Yes.
Or, security guards who were bad for kids, X, Y, and Z. But we had, pared down the staff to just who we believed in, and still it was really, really hard.
So in what way was it hard, different from your previous experience?
I think it was, it was, finding systems that worked, sticking to systems that worked. How do you deal with discipline? How do you deal with behavior? How do you get parents involved?
Right.
Dealing with just also like the challenges that students brought with them to school.
Yeah.
Our school at this point had been pulled off of the Old Locke campus, so we were actually on the campus, like the corner of an elementary school called Flournoy. And it was basically across the street from the housing projects where students told me, things can get really violent there. Don't go there at night. Like they were kind of warning me not to go there. So there's a lot happening in the community that students bring, with them.
Yes.
There's poverty, there's gang violence, there's just other types of violence and disruptions and them carrying all that to school and then saying, all right guys, let's learn about cells today.
Right.
is hard.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how hard it is. And the fact that we had students that came out of there with being great students is amazing, because I don't think I would have been able to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that I was there for a few years.
What was the name of that school?
That was Animo Watts.
No way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Charter High School. I believe it's now called Animo Watts College Preparatory High School or something. Yeah.
So then from Animo Watts.
From there, school number 4, I believe, was Lawndale High School.
Okay.
Lawndale High School is in the South Bay, in this area where I basically teach now. Taught there for a year. Once again, because I was following my old mentor, she taught me how to teach. So I give a lot of credit to my pedagogy, my style, the way I think of students, the way I think of education. She helped me form that. I believe I may have reached out to her and asked her, hey, like, how's it going at the school you're at? I feel like I'm burning out here again, and I don't want to. I'm a fairly young teacher, and I don't want to be done.
Yes.
And so she, I believe there was an opening. I came over and taught here for a year, and during that year of teaching, I get a call from a friend who was telling me, his name was Frank DeVinci. He was like, hey, there's a school down the street that you should take a look at. It's called DaVinci Science. And I had heard about the school from him in previous kind of conversations. Frank. Okay. Yeah.
I love Frank.
Yeah. But this was the moment that I was ready to receive, what he was telling me.
Yes.
So I was like, okay, I have a hole in my schedule today. Let me come over. I drove down, got to the campus, and I believe I came in on a day they were having POLs.
Oh.
So my first taste of the school was them doing POLs.
No way.
Yeah. And so I'm listening to POLs and I'm mind blown because like you, I saw students that were very, ready.
Yep.
I also saw students with IEPs.
Mm-hmm. With what?
An IEP is an individualized education plan.
Okay.
So they students that might need some accommodations or assistance to help them be successful.
Interesting.
So lower performing students generally, or struggling students, and
the ones and twos.
Not necessarily, but
really?
but this student was struggling.
Okay.
And Frank had to pull me aside and say, this student,
not a good example.
Yeah, he's like, well, this student, he has an IEP. I was like, okay, I understand. And I was like, that is more impressive to me. The fact that everyone must do this. You don't exclude any student, from this really rigorous thing of standing in front of a room full of peers and adults and explain your knowledge. I was mind blown. I was like, he thought me seeing this student would be a deal breaker for me, or it wasn't. It only reaffirmed what they were doing was amazing.
Yes.
So I left being very impressed. And my second visit may have been the day that I applied.
Wow.
Yeah. And I believe the day that I applied
keep going. Keep going.
The day that I applied was I was kind of toured around by a student, which was so amazing.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that as well.
Yeah.
By the way, guys, listeners, this podcast is very much consider the world deeply and consider ourselves lightly. So if there's little things happening, like for example, say hi, Morgan.
What's up?
Yeah, Morgan's on my podcast. One of the students is here. Just brought Besina some whatever that is, coffee.
Some coffee.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask you some reason what you wanted, but there was sugar, so just in case it wasn't sweet enough. But
should we have Morgan talk a little bit about her experience?
Yeah, we could. That would be great. Morgan, do you have a few minutes?
Yeah.
We were just talking about. Okay, so we got a guest speaker here. Sit right here, Morgan. How old are you, Morgan?
I'm 17, going on 18 in March.
What grade are you in?
I'm a senior in high school.
Okay, so you're a senior here. So Jay and I were just talking about how amazed we were at DBS, and we were just going over his story and how he got here, and how amazed I was with the structure of the school, and not just the structure as far as project-based learning, POLs, exhibitions, but the fact that the school is willing to look at themselves on a consistent basis and adapt right now. So it's it's March 13th. I don't think this is a good idea. What people would expect is, okay, so let's adapt it for the next semester. It's like, no, we're changing it on March 14th. So I think people should hear from a student, because Jay and I came from wildly divergent education systems, and Jay had the experience of teaching at other high schools where there's nothing like this that I've ever seen. And my job was to only come in and help with physical fitness, right? Mm-hmm. And so, but when I ingratiated myself with the staff and with the program and with the personnel and the students, I slowly started seeing just how amazing it was. And I think one of the curiosities to me was that literally all of the students were so bright and so intrepid and so curious and so smart, and dare I say, so innocent-minded. Like, they're not trying to guard themselves against getting mugged and attacked from outside and inside forces alike, So could you speak to your experience both from the original campus and now this snazzy, awesome new campus?
Just like what I think about it, or just like experience in general at DaVinci?
Well, okay, so how about this? Your middle school and your grade school, did they do anything like DaVinci?
Fortunately, my parents have always wanted me to go to, quote unquote, a different school that, they wanted me to have a different education from other children. And so my elementary school, I had really great experiences growing up in Laguna Beach. And I mean, that school is very well funded. So I had a great education there. The teachers were I'm really happy that they were just as passionate as people at DaVinci.
Yes.
And that was with middle school too. But I found and I've heard from other students that were other alumni from my middle school about this high school that I was supposed to go to, that it just wasn't, the teachers aren't as passionate there. And it can be really hard to, get in that mindset of like being smart. So I found out about DaVinci, and I visited the exhibition night, which is, where the students present about their projects. And when I visited, I was just so intrigued by how well they presented. And like, I was like, how do you know how, an eye works, or these robots? And I was just like,
robots.
Yeah, robots, working, functioning robots. And
not toys.
Yeah.
Actual robots.
Like, this year they're building like a 7-foot robot, and
that is insane.
It's pretty insane.
That's insanity.
And I wanted to be just as smart as they were, sound just as smart as they were.
Yes.
And once I came to the school, it was just, like right when I stepped on campus, like I felt at home. As this is home is the motto.
So you've been here since freshman, right?
Yes, as a freshman.
So Morgan just described exhibition as students presenting stuff. That is not how I described exhibition. Morgan, I describe exhibition as if you took a science fair, a museum, and a rave, and mix it all together.
That's very true.
It is true.
Yes,
okay.
That's true.
Yes.
Yeah. like basically, I would also describe it as like if you were going to like a science Coachella or something.
Yes.
Science Coachella.
Science Coachella. People,
That's great.
Is exhibition open to the public? Can anyone come in and watch?
Yes, anyone and everyone can come visit and watch. And I think that's what makes DaVinci special, is because we not only provide, to our community through like service hours, but also through our knowledge, I think, when people come visit our exhibition night.
Yeah, I was surprised by that too. I'm a huge fan, leadership-wise, of decentralized command. And as a leader, if your people are good, you should be bored. And so what I mean is, if the teacher is teaching something and there is a stranger or a visitor to campus, you would expect an adult to give the visitor a tour. But no, the students actually run the stuff. The students actually give the tours. And so the trust is there, and I guess the responsibility as well. But it's even more proof that kids will rise to the occasion and will do that. What is your like? I'm still not clear on how someone even gets selected to get into DVS, and maybe that's another topic. But I want to focus on your experience as a student right now. What as a senior? What is your favorite, or how about top 2 favorite subjects?
Wow, okay. My top 2 favorite subjects. That's pretty challenging.
How many subjects are there?
Okay, let me think. Science, engineering counts because, it's a required class here. Math, English. Did I say English?
No.
History, foreign language, although, that depends on how many years you're going to take and what you're taking.
Yeah.
But I would say
college writing.
Yeah, college writing, art.
Yep.
We have a lot of different things. We have this new like civil engineering class. Yeah.
Advanced physics.
Yeah, advanced physics. That's all new actually. Advanced physics and civil engineering are just new this year.
I can feel myself getting smarter just talking.
Just the list.
Yeah, just like talking to her. So
my favorite subjects. Okay. Well, I really enjoy English because I just love talking and discussing about topics and just like literature and things like that. Yeah. But I also really like engineering.
Okay.
Because, I had a really good experience my freshman year with this teacher that left actually for, another school, but that's okay. But I learned a lot from him, and it inspired me to like want to go towards the engineering path.
Okay. So, that was my next question, because I was going to ask, what did you want to pursue, if you had anything you wanted to pursue at all as a freshman? Is it the same now as a senior? And if not, what happened in between, or to what extent did DaVinci have influencing that decision, or even reinforcing your original decision?
Well, when I was like, young, like, elementary, like adolescent age, I really wanted to be a Disney Imagineer. Awesome. But I didn't know what that meant.
Okay.
So, it just was in the back of my mind when I came to high school, but I was like, I don't really know what they do, and I just know that, like, what the subjects I'm good at. And then when I came to DaVinci, it did reinforce, going towards that path. And as of now, I still want to be a Disney Imagineer and really, combine, like, engineering and art, because I feel they go hand in hand together.
Awesome.
So
as a senior, do you have opportunities to get like internships? Or?
Oh yeah, I just recently had an internship this past summer at Zero Solar, which is a solar panel company.
Okay.
And I learned a lot there. I was able to have mentorship one-on-one with the CEO.
Wow.
Who taught me about, entrepreneurship and solar panels and electrical engineering.
Wow.
And they have a lot of ties with Tesla, like they do their power walls and stuff.
Awesome.
So that was a great experience.
Yeah.
And they also provide not only internships, but for, underclassmen, summer programs with engineering, or you want to be interested in youth and government, you're into politics, you can totally do that too. I have a lot of friends that are involved with that. But, I was, given the opportunity to be involved with a summer program every year that I was in high school. So that is, like, pretty amazing.
That is amazing. Okay, so if there are parents or children out there listening whose children are below the age of 14, they have heard of DaVinci Science and they very badly want to get their kids into here, could either of you, like, are you aware even of the process of how you got enrolled in the school?
I know that it was a raffle.
Okay.
But
random lottery.
Yeah,
it is random lottery. Oh man, so it's not based on grades or...
No, it's random lottery.
Yeah, it's all right.
Random lottery, but because it was created, because of minorities and stuff. Like they want to be inclusive.
Hey Jamie, come on in here, Jamie. Yeah, don't worry about this.
What's going on?
Yeah, we're recording a podcast.
Are you rapping?
Yeah, I'm throwing bars out.
So joining us is Jamie Larson.
Jamie Larson. She's a physics teacher. Come here, give me a hug.
And for a freshman too. Freshmen do physics.
Freshman physics teacher.
Physics first.
This is episode 2 of the Pascal Project.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Jay Besina featuring Morgan, and now Jamie.
So I'm being interviewed.
Not necessarily, because Morgan, I want you to continue talking about, because my last question was if there are parents listening or children listening who have heard of DBS and badly want their child to attend DBS, what is the process? And they literally just said it was a random lottery. Random lottery. And that kind of breaks my heart a little bit, because a part of me wants it to be based on ability and on merit. But as Besina's earlier story tells, like not all the kids have the access to those opportunities.
Yeah, well, I think it's more amazing because it's so transformative. Like you'll see students who can totally have gone a different path at a different school, but like here, like I don't know. Maybe I'll let Jamie talk about this because Jamie does teach freshmen.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're on your way out. We like basically waved her in here.
Okay, so we've got Jamie Larson. She's been teaching for I think one or two years, and I can only imagine not being with my extremely limited experience with teaching, and just from what you guys have heard as far as students coming into DVS new, she has the job of teaching freshman physics, and so. Can you speak to the experience of what that's like as far as absorbing the culture of DVS, which admittedly is a 180-degree turn from traditional education, and at the same time molding the freshman minds to that culture? Like how is how is that experience?
Sure.
She's like sure.
Yeah, well, I feel like, I actually had the opportunity to take physics my freshman year, but it was very much like a an intro to physics, and then kind of assuming that you would take AP physics your junior or senior year, which I ended up doing. So most of the students that were at my high school in the 9th grade physics course had a pretty strong math foundation and were kind of like on the AP track. So one of my goals in teaching freshman physics here is to kind of like shift the mindset from being like, from students saying like, I'm not a math or science person, because they weren't interested or didn't like the way they were taught it in middle school, to kind of like being more open-minded to science. And that it's not, I think a lot of people have the misconception that physics has to be all math, or physics is like an overwhelming amount of math, which later on, yes, the math is involved, but getting students more engaged with the hands-on aspect and incorporating what they learn in engineering, I think has been able to shift a few mindsets. And
she's being super modest.
Yeah, I know she is.
She's totally changed how things go here.
Yeah.
With her, like with SWE, she's also the advisor to the SWE program, which is so amazing that it outreaches to even kids before they hit high school.
I don't know. So what's this program?
Society of Women Engineers.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, I have seen that on your stuff. Also, Jamie used to help my gym, Spry Society. She would offer her yoga services once in a while. We miss you, by the way.
Namaste.
Yeah, namaste. We namaste the crap out of this podcast. But yeah, so Besina felt like home when he first, found the teaching opportunity at DVS. Morgan felt very much at home, leading up to her freshman year here. You obviously have an extremely high caliber on not just a student of physics, but based on the students' results, the imparting of physics knowledge and enthusiasm for physics. What is your opinion on the way DVS teaches? Like, what is your opinion on how DVS takes on the, for all intents and purposes, failing system on education?
Well, I really like that it's not focused around, or that the curriculum doesn't revolve around a textbook, and that there is some freedom with what we teach when we teach it at this school. And the next generation science standards are more, I feel like, more geared towards how we, or like project-based learning in general, kind of like or connecting across subjects and not just like memorize this equation, but can students apply Newton's first law to this scenario, or kind of like the idea of cross-cutting concepts. So I think the flexibility in what we teach and when we teach it helps a lot in engaging students.
Shamefully, I do not recall Newton's first law of physics. Would you mind?
Morgan, do you remember?
You can say it, Mr. It's been a while.
Inertia.
Okay.
Okay. Could you
so an object in motion stays in motion.
Okay, that is Newton's first law.
Or an object at rest stays at rest.
Okay.
Unless an unbalanced force acts on it.
You all just got smarter.
You're welcome.
But no, because in the beginning I told...
That's why we have seatbelts, because of inertia.
Okay, perfect. Safety. Practical apps of Newton's first law. In the beginning, from an outsider, I was only able to piece together things, and why I found the DVS method so amazing was because, I used history as the example before, as far as, Jay, you were going to be, I forgot who I used already, Frederick II of Prussia, and I was going to be Charlemagne. And instead of reading up and doing a book report, it would actually be stand up in front of class as Frederick, King of Prussia, and present as him. And whereas in physics, instead of studying textbooks and doing a written test, which could easily be cheated on, no, in fact, you're actually going to build rockets and electric guitars and
earphones,
and you have weeks to do it. And so I found that to be so brilliant and so, the challenge and the fun for teacher and student alike. And I'd never heard of that being done ever, less, not even for fun, So I thought that was one of the things that amazed me about this school and why I was so happy and proud to help teach, physical education here. Sometime my first year here teaching CrossFit, I would try to sneak into classes just so I can take them as a student,
Yeah, I remember seeing you lurking in the back.
Yeah, I was like all creepy, this.
Web's here again.
Exactly. I'm not like this over 30, I'm not going to say it, but this over 30-year-old sitting in classes trying to actually, under the guise of auditing the class, the truth is I wanted a world-class education that only could be provided as DVS provides it, So I tried to use my in on physical education to
I was in the back bullying everybody.
Yeah.
Hogging all the questions.
Yeah. Truly. Yeah. So that's why that was happening, Jamie. So I remember you in the beginning, you also had a process by which you had to become a teacher, right? Like the year previous, you had to sit in on so many POLs, you had to sit in on so many exhibitions. I don't know what that's like, but what was the process for you to become a teacher? Here.
Oh. Well,
it's a process.
It's a process. My process was actually my program was only a year. So, I went to Stanford for grad school, got a master's, and so I would go to my student teaching assignment during the day, and then at night I would have different classes to get the master's. And my student teaching assignment was in a big public school. My classes were, so the school is kind of divided into academies, which is pretty common nowadays with big public schools. So it's kind of a smaller group, and those groups kind of travel together to each class. But where I student taught, I had awesome mentors, and there were actually 3 mentors that were doing a lot of research with clickers and misconceptions with physics and using technology and Google Classroom a little bit. So it was kind of like a flipped classroom. They'd record video lectures, and then students would hopefully watch them at home, and then in class was mostly lab, and it was pretty conceptual, but it was pretty different than the way that we do things here. So I really enjoyed I learned a lot during my student teaching experience. However, it was very much this unit you're going to plan the assessment. This unit you're going to write kind of the agenda for the day. This week you're going to plan all of the activities. So when I randomly found the job opening on EdJoin, which is where all the teacher jobs are posted, started
EdJoin, okay.
And then my principal Steve stalked me a little bit until I said yes. But first year it was overwhelming because it's I want to plan this awesome project, but I also like need to have a lesson plan every day and make sure they get enough practice problems. And I'm kind of like writing my own curriculum and standards because the next generation standards hadn't been released yet. So it was hard first year.
Sure.
I'm saying freshman year. It was hard first semester or first year. And then second year, I pretty much like created all new projects and flipped. I think second year, I like flipped the order of my curriculum.
Yeah.
And then third and fourth year, I made like smaller tweaks here and there. And now I'm in my fifth year and I kind of know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So it's a process, but people like Besina and the other teachers here who have more experience are really great mentors, and there's a lot of resources. Like you can go to any teacher, whether it's like science, engineering, or English and social science or social studies, and there's little bits and pieces that you can like incorporate into a science classroom in terms of like review or structure of the class or management. And my principal, Steve, used to be a science teacher, so he's been super helpful. And
are we talking about Steve? Okay.
Yeah.
So you knew him before,
which is very rare.
Yes.
For a principal to be a former science teacher, I feel, or from what I know. So that was cool. And he went to UCLA, so.
Oh, okay. There's that.
So there's kind of like the majority of teachers went to UCLA. But
guaranteed quality.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. So it's obvious that you have changed a bunch of lives and a bunch of minds regarding physics and math and science. Has working with DBS and working with these kids changed you, or changed, like they'll come in and be like, I don't know about math, I don't know about physics, but then they'll come out the other end like, I love this stuff, right? Was that your observations as well? Like it was an understatement for her, like, oh yeah, I was able to adjust some mindsets. It's like, no, you completely changed them 100%. Has working with... Yeah,
there's definitely a huge transformation freshman year.
Okay, so was there a personal transformation for you as far as teaching here?
For sure. I mean, I think like no matter where you are as a teacher, you feel like even if there's a few students who like show appreciation, we're really big on like gratitude and showing thank you, or like kind of like forced writing thank you notes. But I mean, students will either like tell me directly, what they're appreciative of, or just like kind of like the light bulb moments, especially in physics, when they actually see like light bulbs turn on with circuits. So that's really exciting, and like seeing that, or having students share that it's like the first time they felt confident either like explaining scientific processes or being able to show mastery in a new way.
Yeah.
I've also become more patient.
Okay.
But I also like care less, I feel like, now that I'm in my fifth year than I did first year. Like kids aren't going to remember if my like project documents look beautiful for every day, and if my room is like decorated like a professional would. They care about like your interaction with them. So that's something I like still remind myself of.
Good. Yeah. For my listeners, if you can tell by the tone her tone, Jamie has an extremely unflappable manner. So she's very
monotone.
Yeah, very Ben Steiny, clear eyes type of deal. And I can't imagine you actually being impatient, or rather your impatience will be hard to differentiate from happiness or even impatience.
Well, I've seen it myself.
What's that?
I've seen it myself in class.
Oh, have you?
I was her student once.
Yeah, I was gonna ask Morgan if you were ever her student, and could you see her like temperature rising and falling and.
Honestly, I think if there was a time, she would get more patient.
Yes, I can see that. Would you agree, Jamie?
Yeah. I mean, it's just kind of like I don't like raising my voice, so I'll just wait,
Yes.
But I don't know. I guess my mom's always said that about me, that I'm like calm under pressure, but
okay.
I don't know.
I can see that.
So, yeah, a long way of answering. Yes, I feel like teaching has changed me.
Good.
Yeah.
Can you, I'm going to ask this to both of you, but can you name one unforgettable highlight for you teaching here?
I've never taught.
No. I'm gonna ask you something kind of different.
Okay.
Now.
Yeah, you.
Highlight. Oh my god.
So for example, I asked how it's changed you, and you said to see the transformation in the kids. It is a great reward in and of itself, right? Like if DVS burned down, and if the Weisburn district lost all of its funding and all of its money, and you all had to go scatter to the winds, and you guys wouldn't gather in the same place anymore and learn anymore, you could always walk away with the fact that, yes, I changed some kids' lives and minds. So that's kind of an easy, low-hanging fruit answer. But like, for example, one of my highlights being just a helper on DVS was my first week. I think I was here. Somebody asked me about eating and diet. It was Ralph Rodriguez. And so I was like, sure, it was outdoors, and I said, yeah, come on over. And I started describing just the general nutritional prescription to him, but it was him, and then it was Kristen, and it was Eric, and it was like it was just the actual crew there, and they sat there, and it was originally Ralph's question. This was a Friday night, the sun was setting, and it was getting dark, and it was outside, and we had that outdoor whiteboard, remember that? And so I was describing to all of them, they're like, oh, I want to listen to this. And so for the next 2 hours, they sat there and listened to me talk about food. And somewhere in the back of my head, I'm like, it's Friday night.
Right. Why are they here?
Why are you here listening to this? It would have made more sense if I was talking about Star Wars or if I was talking about something else. But no, they're and they were just like, we don't party, we don't do any of that stuff. I'm like, that is bullshit. Like, you are lying, And they're just like, no. I was like, what do you guys do on Friday nights? And they're like, they look at each other the way you guys look at each other right now, and they're just like, we just study and prep for the blah blah blah. And I'm like, this is insane. Like, this is ridiculous. Yeah. But that was a highlight for me because I could see that it changed them, and as I'm talking to them, I could see that they were like hanging on every word that I said. And in that moment, that's when I actually came to really came to love the kids here as well. So that I consider that a huge highlight, for myself. And so I guess that's what I'm asking you. I just asked her. I just asked her what if she had a highlight in her teaching, career. So do you have one of those?
Well, probably having a student go into a major that's related to physics.
Okay.
So, two students. One, her name is Josie, and one, Anna, who ended up getting full ride scholarship to University of Wisconsin for electrical engineering. But they both you don't really see physics before. I mean, you see physical science in middle school, but you don't really learn about physics unless they read a lot on their own until 9th grade.
Yeah.
So I like to think that I had an impact on them. And they were actually both junior transfers, so they didn't have physics freshman year. They were juniors that were stuck in all freshman classes, which is really awkward. Yeah. And it's I've had separate sections of juniors only, and I teach the class very different, or I manage the class very differently than I would an all freshman class.
Yeah.
But and Anna had the best attitude and was still so interested in concepts, and same thing after school when I'm racing out the door, she's like, wait, I was absent, and I tried to summarize this concept, but could I try to reteach it to you? And so she was really invested and curious, and then I hope she's still thinking about majoring in electrical engineering.
Yeah, I can't imagine what kind of highlight that would be. When the ones who went to a physics related major, did they personally attribute that choice to you, to your class?
And then Josie is an astrophysics major, so I don't know. Astrophysics is next level.
Yeah.
But I don't know that they specifically attributed it to me, but I like to think that I engage them in the content enough to make them want to pursue it more. And something else I was going to say. Oh, I just remember we had, with Society of Women Engineers, we have some guest speakers come in from local engineering companies, and one, I think she was an engineer from Northrop.
Okay.
Or, yeah, one of those that are like a block away. One of those. And she was an astrophysicist, and Josie was like the only one that showed up for this after school guest speaker, and I was like fascinated, like eyes wide, but just because I had never really, she was like a female astrophysicist, you don't see or hear from them every day. So just like seeing Josie's passion for physics and learning more, and taking her free time and spending it that way was cool for me to see.
That's so cool. Hi, how are you? All right, so
I have to sneak out.
Okay, good seeing you. This is great. Thanks so much. This is not going to be the only time I'm doing this either. Like, I'll come back and do this again.
Cool.
All right, see you, Jamie.
Bye.
Morgan.
Hi, Jamie.
So Morgan is a senior. So my question for you is, do you have a personal like DVS highlight, because you felt at home immediately when you became a student here, and just listening to your answer and listening to the way you speak about this place, it has met and exceeded every expectation you've had. I'm guessing. So could you name a highlight of your high school career, or maybe even easier, a highlight per grade? So for example,
that's what I was gonna say.
Yes.
I don't have just one highlight.
Okay, so I'm curious about this because for myself, and I think even maybe for Besina, I'm so living vicariously through you guys for my high school. I love my high school experience, by the way, and this is not a slight, and this is not me trashing the traditional system. It is me trashing the traditional system, but there's an old samurai saying in that, even in wild storms, even in harsh storms, wildflowers still bloom. So I would argue that no matter the environment, kids will still find a way. Like, not just in America, but all over the world, there are some poverty-ass ridden places, and people will find the internet and learn how to build mills. Like, I know about this as well. Like, kids will find ways to educate themselves and do it. So yeah, to some extent, I'm not going to say that the environment doesn't matter, but the system and the culture that's in place should encourage and nurture learning. So there's that. Now, in your high school career, could you give us some of the highlights per grade?
Just in like academics or like involvement in like clubs or anything?
How about this? Let's do an academic highlight and a personal or non-academic highlight per grade.
Okay. In high school?
Yes.
Okay.
Here, specific to DVS, or even DVS related.
Freshman year, I had many highlights.
Okay.
I can't just pick one because right off the bat, first semester, I was still getting used to it, project-based learning. And then second semester, I was able to really grow and even participate in a 3-man squad engineering contest that was, held by Chevron, which was like a design challenge.
Awesome.
And that was really amazing. I got a lot of things out of that.
Yeah.
Also, she just left, but I had a lot of good experiences in physics too. I was one of those kids that didn't really enjoy math or science at first, and once I, experienced those classes with Larson and Jamie, physics, and the math class, I really started to be more passionate about it, and I even was able to get student physics student of the year, which was one of my biggest highlights that year, because I really just went all out and asked as many questions as I could, and tried to do the best I could. Even if I failed 1,000 times, I still came out successful in the end. Yes. So those were the two highlights in freshman year. Sophomore year, I personally was going through. Okay, wait. Let me.
That's okay.
You said personal, so that was my two academic highlights. My personal highlight for freshman year was getting to know the teachers, honestly, because I am still friends with my English teacher, with Miss Larson, and the engineering teacher. I still keep in touch with all of them. I am really, I consider them, my mentors, but also really close friends because they're always there for me, obviously after school, but, after the school year, but they have given me great advice, and getting to have those close-knit relationships with them have meant a lot to me throughout my whole entire high school career. That's like, if I had to name one highlight for their whole high school career that kind of relates to freshman year, it would be having those relationships with teachers, because they care that much that they want to get to know you, not just academically, but also as a person, because that's what it's all about too, is having those relationships. So every year it would be getting close to a teacher. But freshman year I started to have that realization that, wow, like I could actually have these relationships.
So it was a big deal because it was freshman year. It was like your first realization.
Wow, like I've heard a lot about passionate teachers, but it's different because I was able to, discover new relationships with teachers.
Awesome. Because you can stay, right, as long as he stays? Okay, but you have to go in a little bit.
You can.
You have to go. Okay, that's more than enough time. So I completely forgot to mention that as well, because as a trainer, as a fitness trainer, the good trainers see it as a fitness business, whereas what separates the good from the great ones are truly the understanding that it's a relationship business, and you are, to the extent that you are great as a trainer, means that if you don't know what your clients do for a living, and if you don't know what's going on with their lives, you are that crappy of a trainer. And so I took that to heart. And when I saw that here at this school, that's also was one of the nails in the coffin for me to think, like, this is something, it's not just the structure of the POLs, and it's not just the project-based learning, and it's not just the exhibition, but it's also it's embedded in this personnel culture that they have an obligation to get to know their students and to get to know their lives. With lots of professions out there, there are personal boundaries that shouldn't be crossed, to the point of sterility. Like your psychiatrist and your lawyer and your engineer and your doctor and your accountant. The good ones will keep it walled up, but the great ones, the ones that you stick with for life, are the ones you actually dig and get to know. And arguments can be made that there's risk and there's a line, but what great things are achieved without risk? So I think that's great. I completely forgot about that. Let's revisit that, because we have another special guest,
Andrea.
Hi. So I met Andrea. It's one of the CrossFit classes when you were a freshman, right? And so now you're a senior in the new campus. So both Morgan and Andrea have unique perspectives.
And we're both in CrossFit.
And you're both in CrossFit.
All 4 years.
In CrossFit, 4 years.
Andrea just hit a PR today.
Really?
Yeah, 105.
105 what?
Dang.
105 pounds, deadlift, straight deadlift.
Awesome. Yes. What was do you remember the first time you ever deadlifted?
Yeah, it was actually freshman year, second semester.
Yeah.
I was working a little bit with Garrett, who was another coach. He had a bar out. It was just 15 pounds. But he showed me the technique with the PVC pipe, and he's like, okay, try the 15 pounds. And I did it, and it felt great. He didn't put me any more weight because I was only like 70-something pounds at that time. So he's like, okay, we'll stop you there. But it was the coolest feeling, just being like, I lifted this weight. That's so cool.
For my listeners, Andrea looks like 80 pounds now instead of 70 pounds. When I met her, she's not a large human. Let me put that. Like, she could have been cast in one of the Hobbit movies.
There's a lot of power in there.
There's a lot of power there. Yeah, and now 4 years later, she still could be casted as, but she's packed on some muscle, and the thing is, I haven't seen her in years, but now she's actually running the CrossFit classes from what I understand. So that's super cool. How does that feel?
It's really such a unique experience because being able to transfer what I've learned through CrossFit and apply it to showing other people is really, really unique. And with my class that I have, which is after school on Thursdays, it's a lot of different people with a lot of different skill levels. And you really get to see that because you're watching each movement, and you realize some of them have strengths that others do not technically really have.
Yes.
So it's really interesting working with that. I actually have a notebook with a list of who I have in my class and what they do. A lot of them play volleyball, so I realized a lot of them, the ones in volleyball, actually do really, really well with like hip movements, like the squat. But I have somebody that does a lot of, just like throwing knives, throwing stuff.
Throwing knives, wow.
It's interesting.
Good high school.
Throwing knives.
Good high school. But reason number 3,206 that I want to come to this high school.
But he does extremely well with like the push press and the thrusters.
Yes.
Anything that has to do more with the upper arm and pull-ups, he's great with that. So it's really interesting seeing that and building those connections with them.
Yeah.
Because I try to tailor what I do in class to that specific person.
Okay.
And I make sure to be like address, some of them have like knee problems or like an ankle problem.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, okay, make sure you do these stretches afterwards.
Yeah. Whose idea was it for you to start teaching CrossFit?
Besina.
Was it really? Good.
Besina came up with the idea to creating it into a club. You brought it up as making me president.
Founder and president.
What is the club called?
The club is a functional fitness extension program because CrossFit is trademarked, so we can't use that. But
good.
It's functional fitness extension program, but it's typically just CrossFit.
Okay. Yes. Awesome. What is the difference to you? Do you see CrossFit differently now, having been student and teacher, or having been athlete and coach?
Yes, because beforehand I was focusing a lot on myself and just trying to get myself at a higher weight because I went in 70 pounds freshman year, dealing with anorexia and stuff like that.
Oh, wow, okay.
So that's why I was such a small weight.
Yeah.
And I had such a horrible relationship with food. I didn't want to eat.
Yeah.
And just packing on the weight was kind of very difficult for me because when I gained the weight, I'd be like, I feel really uncomfortable.
Really?
It was really uncomfortable.
Squats and milk, dude. It always come back.
Yeah, but once I got like a grasp on my weight, I stabilized my weight at like 95 pounds. I'm 100 pounds, I think now.
Good for you.
Thank you.
My mistake. 100 pounds.
100 pounds now.
Yes.
More than body weight.
More than body weight.
Awesome. Sweet. And what are you, 17, 18?
I'm 17.
Okay, good.
So it was a lot of me focusing on me. So as just as an athlete, I was focusing on myself. Having stabilized myself in a nice position where I feel comfortable, where I can, do what I need to do to improve as an athlete, but I know that I can also take on the challenge of showing other people how to do the typical movements that we do in CrossFit, like the squat, the deadlift, and such like that. Was interesting because when I became a coach, I realized it's really hard to teach CrossFit.
Yeah.
It's really hard to teach anything because you can understand it yourself, but to explain it to somebody else, that's really difficult. And especially with CrossFit, you're showing them, but you're also verbally telling them how to do the movement. So you have to be very specific with the terms that you're using. So if you're trying to describe, a front squat, it's like, okay, so you do this, but it's reality. Nobody's seeing what I'm doing right now. So it's like you want to make sure your thumb's distance away from your hips for your hand placement. Rack position, meaning that your elbows are up, the weight is towards your chest, and then you go into a squat. And your knees go out, make sure they don't cross your toes.
As she was saying that, I was actually getting ready to perform them as she was commanding. Like
that's how assertive she is.
Yeah.
So it was really interesting and it also helped me like realize the nitty gritty of what's wrong with my form.
Yes.
So you learn about yourself as a coach, but you also learn a little bit more about the sport as a coach as well.
Yeah, there's that old adage of when one teaches, two learn, kind of thing, and it's very rare to hear a student, a high school student who's going to school and learning CrossFit, to actually become a coach while still in high school. Are you still, outside of coaching it, are you still taking it yourself? Like, do you still get the opportunity to be an athlete and not just a coach?
Yeah.
Okay.
Monday, Wednesday, I take the seminar for
good.
an hour.
Good.
And then I coach Thursdays after school.
Okay.
And then sometimes on the weekends, if I have time, I'll practice like deadlifts because I have a 15-pound bar at home with 10-pound plates.
Good. Can you speak to how... I didn't know that you were struggling with anorexia before and all that. Has CrossFit had an effect on your self-image and on your academics through high school?
Yes.
Okay.
Completely yes.
Can you speak to that before you before you go? Because I'm trying to get the most out of your 5 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. So academically with CrossFit, I realized that with CrossFit, it was a way for me to kind of relieve stress because it was, for me, I'm very verbal with CrossFit. So that means a lot of grunts, sometimes cursing.
Yes.
Which allowed me to go home.
Yeah.
And allowed me to go do my homework with a clear mind.
Okay.
So that allowed me to focus my attention more. So by getting all the stress out during CrossFit, I could focus more in class.
Whereas before you would have a hard time concentrating?
I had a hard time concentrating because I was constantly thinking about whether it be my weight or food or when I had to deal with the next meal because I know, okay, I have to eat soon. That I'm mentally preparing myself. But with CrossFit, it just allowed me to kind of let my frustration out in performance and movement.
Yeah.
And then it cleared my mind when I got home. Even if it was just for an hour or 2 hours where my mind was clear, that hour or two was specific to my school, which helped immensely. Good. As for confidence, freshman year, it did boost my confidence a little bit. I was still struggling with it because I had received a couple comments from people saying that I looked too skinny, I looked sick. Somebody called me, am I allowed to curse?
Yes.
Somebody called me an anorexic bitch.
Aww.
And that really kind of dug a dagger in me because I was I'm doing this amazing things in CrossFit and I can perform well, but people still saw, somebody that was 70 pounds and struggling because you could see my bones and stuff like that. But it wasn't until I took CrossFit during the summer and then entered sophomore year that I really started to gain a lot more confidence as I, perfected the movement a little bit more and got more weight and really focused more on I can do this movement. It's I may not be lifting as much as somebody else, but I'm smaller than them, and for me that's a lot of weight, and I can do that well.
Awesome.
And it's understanding that I can do these amazing things boosted my confidence to the point where I was okay, I actively in my mind was let's try to gain some more weight. So sophomore year was the real push of gaining more weight. I think sophomore year in itself I gained maybe 10, 15 pounds just sophomore year.
Wow. Awesome.
So it really helped with the weight, but it just helped overall in a lot of relationships too.
Could you see a correlation between your CrossFit practice and your grades?
Yeah.
Are they called grades?
Yeah,
okay.
grades. It's grades.
Everything here is different, dude. I don't even know anymore.
We do things differently here. It's on my back, actually.
Yes.
It did be one because of the concentration, getting the frustration out. And two, I don't even know if there's a study on this, but for some reason I just kind of the more I work out, the more I feel kind of prepared to go into class, the more I have my attention's there. I just kind of don't feel as sluggish.
Yes.
So because I don't feel as sluggish, I feel, more confident to take in more information.
Awesome.
And so my grades kind of went up. There was a little bit where my grades were kind of hit a dip, but that was also because of some things that were going on in my life personally.
Yeah.
But if that wasn't there, I think it would still show an upward trend.
Good. Could you describe what your academic performance, POL performance, exhibition performance would look like without CrossFit?
Without CrossFit, specifically for POL, I think I probably would be getting maybe B's, not the 4. I think I'd get probably 2.5 and 3 because presenting in front of a panel of teachers is really intimidating.
Yeah. She's so modest though.
Yeah.
So
Morgan's over here you modest bitch.
It's really intimidating.
Yeah.
Especially because it's okay, you guys grade my homework and my tests. Now let me teach you what you taught me and I should have been listening to. But I might not have been listening to.
Yeah.
So it was doing CrossFit and just being with a bunch of people, a lot of guys and a lot of upperclassmen. It was okay, these are people that are a little bit higher than you. You kind of work to feel comfortable around them, which helped me kind of present for POLs because it's okay, you may be my teacher, so it's because some of them I did have that relationship with them, Miss Flower, my English teacher, freshman year, I had a really good relationship with her. So I wasn't really scared to present in front of her, but I was really scared to present in front of Miss Smith because Miss Smith was so nice and so sweet until you got on her nerves, and then she was so scary.
Okay.
So CrossFit just really helped because I was in an environment where it was like I was uncomfortable with. So POLs is an environment I was uncomfortable with. So realizing I was uncomfortable and being able to take it and be like, okay, calm down, you can do this.
Awesome. So
then I started getting like 4s on almost all my POLs, and I got mad because I got all 4s except for like a 3.75 on something, and I was just like, no.
Yeah.
But it helped that way. And then in exhibition, I think I actually did exhibition for CrossFit freshman year too.
Okay, good.
I think so.
Oh,
I think so.
You did.
I did
Was
that.
this at the old campus?
Yeah,
I think I remember
it was at the
that.
old campus.
Yeah.
And then I also did it for, what did I do? Intro to Engineering and Design.
Okay.
And that was with the old engineering teacher, Perez. And I felt pretty confident in the CrossFit one because it was like, all right, cool, I'm showing up.
Yep.
And then afterwards, I went to Perez's, and having that feeling like a boss going into that, I was just like, all right, let me teach you what I know because you probably don't know this. I'm a beast.
Yes.
It really helped with that because it's like you feel like a beast, and you can apply that to a lot of parts of your life.
Yeah.
So it really helped with that. And then with my grades, freshman year, average student, pretty average student. Sophomore year, it went really well except for math, which was algebra 1. Right?
Yeah,
algebra 1. Algebra 1, Frank.
No, algebra 2.
Algebra 2.
Yeah.
Sorry.
2.
Algebra 2 with
Sorry,
Frank.
Frank.
Sorry.
Oh no.
Oops.
They're not trying to bring shame to your
We're
algebra
not.
class,
We're
Frank.
not. We're not. There's algebra 1 and 2. But algebra 2 with Frank.
Love you, Frank.
Love you. I really struggled with that class because I was really, really scared to ask questions because a lot of people went at a faster pace than me. So I was just like, I felt like I was falling behind.
Yeah.
But I learned, especially now because I take college calculus.
Yeah.
I learned. Thank you. It's still really intimidating, but it's like everything will be intimidating to some degree.
Yeah.
CrossFit kind of helped with the sense of. In CrossFit, I'd ask or I'd be given like critiques on how to fix my form, and I'd take that to heart.
Yeah.
Or I'd ask follow-up questions. I'm like, okay, so am I doing this right? So in class, I started to become less afraid of asking questions.
Yeah.
Math, it was still a problem because it was math, and I felt like I should know this, having my mom being a manager at a bank and my dad being an engineer at SpaceX, both of them dealing with math. So it felt like I should know math.
Yeah.
But it just helped me ask a lot more questions.
Yes.
Which helped with my learning.
Yes.
So
good.
That's how it went upwards.
Good. Yeah, I just do you have to go like right now?
One more question?
I'll leave you with this. So just think of that never goes away. And that I remember when I first started coaching CrossFit, there were people in CrossFit obviously that I looked up to a lot, and sometimes they would be in the classes that I would have to coach. And so I would be completely intimidated, like so intimidated, because I'm just like, man, not only did you teach me this stuff, but you were my inspiration, and here I am trying to teach you stuff. Yeah. And it was hard. And so, but the thing is they are, have you ever heard that a teacher is always a student?
Yeah.
So they're always students as well. And any good teacher will know that they don't know everything, and that newer eyes and fresh eyes and ears will most of the time bring perspectives that you are too blind to because you've been in the game too long. So don't take yourself for granted, or just think of a missile that's on its way to a target. I had a military background. Sorry, that's all I got right now. So think of a missile that's on its way to a target, and it's computerized. And if the trajectory is not correct, it will either self-correct or it will receive corrections from central command. When it receives corrections, the missile doesn't stop and feel sorry for itself. It just like keeps going. It's the wake behind the missile is your past. It has nothing to do with the direction that you're going. And so if you hear corrections on your form, if the calculus problem, because I know calculus problems are basically paragraphs of math, right? And so if you mess up in one part, you have no idea that you messed up until the end, and it's like 20 minutes later. But that's okay. That's the nature of it. So when it's not just your teachers and your family, but also life will give you these things. And so where we mess up is we as the missiles will stop and feel sorry for ourselves. Don't do that. Just adjust as long as it is necessary for you to keep going. And any anger or any kind of personal thing that's taken onto you is actually a projection of the person, not you. So you're doing so great.
Thank you.
It's great to see you again. I will do this again. Like this is so fun. Yeah, I love talking about topics, and this is my second ever podcast, and so this is not going to be the last one that I do here. Jay, do you have to go? Okay. Okay. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's great seeing you.
Great seeing you.
Yeah, I'll be here again.
Yay!
Yeah.
Bye, Morgan.
Bye. Congrats, PR.
Yep. Congrats on the PR.
That's so sweet. She didn't realize she hit a PR.
I didn't.
Yeah, it's the best.
I thought I had 90 pounds, and 90 pounds I think was like my PR.
Yeah.
So I did it. I'm like, oh no way, I'm not gonna get 100. No way.
Yeah.
But then Jason comes up. He's like, you did 105. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
No way. And then we had Kondo,
Yeah.
who was the college calculus teacher.
Yeah.
She's like, Kondo, check it please.
Yeah.
She added it all up. She's like, yeah, that's 105.
Yeah.
I'm like, and then I just like jumped up and down and I screamed at Mark and Pablo and we're like, what the heck happened? I'm like, I got a PR, guys.
Yes.
That's awesome.
I was about ready to go be like, next week, I'll get it next week, but
awesome.
PR.
Yeah, I look forward to more.
See you tomorrow.
See ya.
See you tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right, Morgan, we got 10 minutes to go over 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade highlights.
Okay.
This is your new POL.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
All right, 10th grade academic highlight, personal
10th
highlight.
grade academic. I guess my academic highlight for 10th grade was being able to push myself second semester because, like Andrea, I also went through a lot of personal things my sophomore year, which affected my performance in academics my first semester. So my highlight for that year would be finding students here that really encouraged me and supported me to do better second semester because, you know, being able to learn that skill of asking for help was a really big thing for me, not just feeling bad for myself and, you know, not asking for help and forming study groups. So that probably would be my highlight is finding those people that helped me, you know, grow into that person. Personal highlight, I guess it would be shouting out Miss Ichiroku because she's like one of my favorite teachers as well. The world history teacher here. We have a passion for food together. And so I gained a really good relationship with her that year. Because of food and because we share that passion. So we were able to, she, you know, made me like food stuff for me and stuff, which was really nice. And, you know, all those teachers really, you know, gave me good vibes to continue because they knew what I was going through. You know, you have those relationships. So they knew what I was going through. They helped me. And my grade change was just amazing second semester. Another highlight that year would be learning more about ASL, which is American Sign Language. And being able to communicate with a deaf person using sign language because you know in the classroom I would just communicate with, you know, people that are hearing, but being able to go on a field trip and experience that with a Filipino deaf person was amazing because the story goes I was in Jollibee.
Wait, so what are you? Where's your family from?
I am half Filipino, quarter Italian, quarter Irish. And, you know, we were just, after we did the American Sign Language field trip, we went to a nearby mall to grab some food, and we were in Jollibee, thank goodness.
Which is a fast food, Filipino
fast food. And there was a deaf person in line, and we couldn't tell she was deaf, but she was like trying to communicate with the cashier. And I was like, guys, she's deaf, so I went to go help her. And I, you know, signed to her, and she signed back, and I was able to help her order her food.
I can't imagine how awesome that
That's such
was.
an incredible story.
I can't imagine how awesome that was for her, for you, for the Jollibee person looking.
Exactly.
You know? Real world learning.
Dude.
Yeah, that was a really, because, you know, it was so unexpected. I was just thrown with that experience. And I just decided to take it, and, you know, it made me feel really good. So those were probably my highlights for that year.
Awesome. That was 10th grade.
10th grade, yes. 11th grade, wow, okay. You know, one of the hardest years ever, besides sophomore year. But probably my academic highlight was being able to go through college history, which is a very difficult class, history, U.S. history 101 and 102. It's just way different.
Yes.
We experience it just like a college class, and the things that we write. So being able to grow from that and gain that kind of, putting my foot in the water of what college could be like or is going to be like, was really helpful for me.
Yeah.
And also just, I had a lot of struggles in pre-calculus that year, but towards the end of the year I was able to grow again. It's, always that first semester I'm kind of getting used to everything, and then second semester I just like totally just push myself and want to keep growing.
Yeah.
And I also decided to take on that year, I guess this is kind of personal, kind of academic, is I started to take on 2 fitness seminars. So I don't know if they know what seminar is yet, but
can you explain seminar really quick?
So seminars, instead of having like a sport, or something, we have seminars. So you could take yoga, you could take we used to have flight club. You can take
rock climbing.
Rock climbing.
Amazing.
CrossFit.
Amazing. That's
there
right.
was a cooking seminar.
Coding.
Yeah.
Or
that
you
is
can take
amazing.
like math support or whatever you needed.
I remember when Jared was here, he would teach guitar. Like,
they have like guitar and stuff like that. So
it's essentially what I think most schools might call like an elective.
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 Okay.
Elective. So we get 2 every year, and I chose to do yoga and CrossFit, which was really, really, tiring, but it helped me in the long run because, with CrossFit, I was able to, like Andrea, like let out aggression, but then in yoga, I was able to like be calm and like have an open mind and which Miss Larson taught.
That's perfect.
So
awesome. Okay,
that
so
was like perfect.
Let's table your senior year is not done yet, so let's wait on that.
Okay.
I know you have to go, Jay, but I have two questions.
Okay.
Like 2 questions. So the first one is a little personal. The second one is a little for the world. The first one, the first one is you found your calling. How did your parents react when you told them you were going to be a doctor? A. B. When you found DBS. Did you feel like you felt like home then? Has it changed now? So how did your parents react when you told them, Mom, Dad, I'm not going to be a doctor?
It was probably, to be honest, me keeping my like life just private from them.
How did you get away with that?
That was my entire life. No, my parents. I applied to college on my own. They didn't know what was going on.
Wow.
Like a lot of things I did in high school, like I don't know. I think they didn't like force themselves into my life, and so I appreciate that.
Yeah. So on some level, did it not even occur to them that you wouldn't be a doctor?
Well, I don't think they weren't like keeping up with like, all right, so have you applied to med schools yet?
Yeah.
Like I graduated from college,
right?
With my degree, and I think at some point I was like, you know what, I might go into grad school for education, and I think they're just thrilled by that.
Wow.
To be honest, they're thrilled by the grad school thing.
Yes.
At UCLA, nonetheless. So so that was, I'm sure, like a point of pride for her.
Got it.
I don't think she was like, wait, hold on, like mental math. What happened to the doctor thing?
Good for you.
Nowadays, so fast forward till now, she's super happy. She's super proud of me. She's happy that I'm happy, really. Yes. I mean, she sees my posts about my school, and she's, she always, whenever she sees me, she's like, "You're so happy, aren't you?" I'm like, "I really am."
Good.
So I think that is what she always wanted. Yes. I think she was afraid that I was going down a path that I eventually would find myself unhappy at.
Yeah.
Because she was a teacher in the Philippines.
Oh, okay.
She was an elementary school teacher, and I think her 2 sisters became nurses, and I think maybe for herself she was like, maybe that would have been my path. I'm not sure. Sorry, Mom, I'm not sure if that's the case.
No, it's okay. No, it's okay. So because my next question was, how long have you been teaching at DBS now? This like.
I think 7 years.
Okay, so January 2008 is when I actually joined CrossFit.
Yeah. And
it's January 2018, so I've been doing CrossFit for almost 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I've been a coach since like mid 2009, full time since 2010, so almost 8 years.
Yeah.
And I love it more now. Like that's not fair because I loved it so. It's just different. It's like a different love, but it has not abated and it has not diluted. It has not shrunk.
Your love. For CrossFit.
my love. It's, if anything, it's even more now, and I'm struggling desperately on how to like reach more. You know what I mean? And how to reach more people with this.
Yeah.
And so, I am talking about CrossFit, the methodology, but also the message of physical culture and strength and health and vitality in general for the human race. And so, that's how I feel now. Do you feel the same? Do you feel the same love, the same happiness, the same fulfillment on year 7 teaching at DBS than year 1, or is it different? And if so, how?
I mean, I think some of what is amazing has kind of normalized.
Okay.
But it's still amazing to me.
Yes.
I'm still like, what is this school? You know, because I do remember this is my 5th school I've taught at. Right. So I think that's quite a bit of like jumping around.
Yes.
Right. So I've seen large public high schools. I've seen small charter schools, not unlike this school, and so I've seen what works. I've seen what doesn't work as well.
Okay.
And this school just really has basically everything that works.
Yes.
So my initial questions to Steve, our principal, were like, "How did you, in starting a new school, like make all the right decisions?"
Yes.
And I mean, he is infinitely humble as well, and he's like, luck. He would say luck, but I don't believe that. But but I'm just always impressed that I think, if I had to guess, like what guides all of the decisions around our school is the question, what is best for students?
Okay.
And that supersedes what is best for like staff sometimes, and which is fine.
Sure.
I mean, if he hired the right teachers, and I think we all understand, even if it's inconvenient or hard work for us, or requires sacrifice on our part, that we know that our leadership is making decisions that best serve students first.
Yes.
And that's who he has on this bus. On this staff.
Yeah.
We are all kind of like-minded and believe the same thing. So
I know where you're going with the bus thing. Could you describe that really quick? I
know metaphor.
Yeah. Could you
so the metaphor is
like
like how do you make something successful? And I believe I'm not gonna even try to guess what book it came from, but it's like get the right people on the bus, right? And I think the metaphor, really works.
Yes.
Because we, this bus, we're all choosing to jump on it.
Yes.
Right. And it's all going in the same direction. So, I think that's a good metaphor for like-minded people who are trying to like go in the same direction.
I agree. Because what I heard was it's not just to get the right people on the bus, but to put the right people in the right seats. Because you know what I mean?
Nice.
So some people are. Some people are best in the back.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. Like you need to know their strengths and use and leverage those strengths.
Yes. Okay. So, what do you see? We will do this again. Like if you're open to it, we will do this podcast again. This was so much fun, and so I myself personally learned so much and gained so much from the podcast, and I hope that you guys have the same experience as well. What do you see as the future of education? As far as like DBS is still a 4-year institution, right? It's still a high school, and this question may be, food for the next podcast. But where my mind is going is that technology is changing so much. The way people learn is changing so much. Joey Weinstein, one of the former teachers here who gave the speech a few years ago or like 4 years ago, he said the top 5 most in-demand jobs now did not exist 5 years ago. And so that just shows how, and that was 4 years ago. So that shows how fast things change. So I guess my question for us to chew on for the next one is where is education going? And when I mean education, I mean children and teenagers and young adults. How are they going to learn stuff that they're going to use in their adulthood, or by what methods are they going to pursue their interests, given that essentially you can learn almost whatever you want to learn via the internet? outside of the social skills notwithstanding, and the little communes notwithstanding. So I know you have to go now, but we'll just put that on the burner for the next one.
Yeah.
But
I want to jump on it already, but yeah.
I mean, if you have the time, I would love to hear your take, because obviously I have my Jay and I have talked like way too many hours over way too many beers and way too many crab shacks and fried rice and like talking about this subject.
All the food came out.
Yeah, and so like I have this, just for an example. One of my things that I kind of see is how one of my teachers told me that one of the reasons that child labor laws exist obviously is because of the abuse, but also because children and teenagers have infinitely more energy. They see work as play, or they learn by play, and because of that they can outwork any adult workforce. And therefore child labor laws were put into place to prevent the competition that teenagers present to adults. And so when I heard that, I was like, oh crap, because they can work for 20 hours straight. They don't need they can survive off of Snickers and tacos and still keep their physicality. You know what I mean? So they can do things that we can only dream of, and they can just literally outwork anybody. Yeah. So there was that. And so there's also the failure of instilling how important academics is. So one of my crazy ideas was let children work when they want to work for any industry they want to pursue, take on any mentor they want to mentor, and then once they reach 18, since that's the stupidest arbitrary number ever, so once they reach 18 or 21, then let them choose an institution of learning of their choice, because people will naturally pursue what they want to pursue anyway. That was one of my things that I was like toying around with, But DVS has obviously upended all of that. But outside of DVS, you just heard from Jay what schools are like. So there's just prisons, essentially, or like places for them to just stay and wait for the next teacher. That's like horrible to me, the amount of time wasted and the amount of energy and potential wasted. Yeah. So like do you have a like a 1 or 2 minute take on that's just one
where
of my like where's education going? DVS is the bubble, right? So that I guess it doesn't just like
in a nutshell, I think I wouldn't be as happy as I am if I didn't believe that we were kind of on the cutting edge.
You are on the cutting edge. You are
of like what things should happen. So it's not DaVinci's goal to make another DaVinci, to make infinitely more DaVincis everywhere.
Sure.
Under the DaVinci name. However, we are very open source regarding like how we do things. So we have lots of guests who come through, lots of teachers who are curious, and administrators who are curious from other schools, like how do you do things the way you do, and so we they're welcome to come through and see how we do things, and hopefully glean something that they can take back to their schools and implement in their own context.
I love it. If you're an educator or teacher or parent listening, I highly recommend visiting at least DVS. Look them up.
Exhibition night
is probably the best opportunity. The one DVS event I have not attended is the Overnighter that I've heard so much about. It's so crazy. But if people wanted to ask you questions or get a hold of you, Jay, what is the best way for them?
They can email me for sure.
Could you say your email?
Yeah, my email is letter G as in
gangster.
Okay. Last name, so G Besina, spelled B as in boy, ESINA at DaVinciSchools.org. Okay, awesome. So gbesina at DaVinciSchools.org.
Cool. It was a huge honor having you, Morgan. It was huge honor having you, because I think this was a surprise for me as well, as far as having not just the adult staff perspective, but also the students' perspective. And then we got another student and another staff. So this turned out to be so much better than I.
You just gotta camp out here for a day and just like grab anyone who walks in.
Yes,
you'll have a 12-hour podcast.
Yeah, I thought we would have Katie Kondo for a second too, but then she had to go, huh?
Yeah.
She would say a lot of good stuff.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. I will do this again. Do you think Steve would be savvy to this?
Yeah. If we can carve out some time for him, I'm sure he'd love to sit down.
Steve is the principal of DVS, so that is a brain I'd like to pick as well.
Yeah.
But thanks so much, guys.
Yeah.
The Pascal Podcast, episode 2, signing off.
Sweet.